night. It's Neil Atkinson with Erdinger, with the Munro, and with the wonderful Damian Kavanagh, Phil Blundell and Shaun O'Donnell to go through the season so far, see how we feel about the whole thing, see how we're all feeling about every little bit of it. And Damian, I think the key question is, not are Liverpool doing well? That's the obvious question. The top of the pile, top of both piles. If there's a pile going, Liverpool at the top. They are, but it's instead where that is against your expectation at the start of the season. What were you expecting versus what is it that you've got?
Well, it was very clear. I remember being on a show before the season kicked off, and I was like, well, there's a bracket of 3 teams ahead of everybody else, and we're in that. And we are Liverpool, and it's not a question of just saying, oh, we'll be in it for 4th and we're going to give the manager a time. And I do distinctly remember thinking, no, the manager doesn't think that, the club don't think that, we're in this from the first whistle of the first game. And in reality, it looks like we started from the first whistle of the second half of the first game. And I think we learned from that. But yeah, there's no doubt in my mind, there's 3 teams above everybody else, and Liverpool had every right to feel like they were one of them. A lot of people talked about the fixture list possibly being kind to Liverpool, but in the end it will always get you because you play everyone. But there is a case to say sometimes if you can get a nice run and get a bit of momentum, get a bit of confidence and stuff like that. And then after long, arduous seasons for both of our direct rivals, if they fall below their standards and Liverpool play to the standards that we know we can get in front of them, and that's how it's worked out. So this isn't hindsight. I distinctly remember being that optimistic at the start of the season. I haven't got carried away. We haven't won anything yet. Them 3 teams we've mentioned will be the top 3, pick your order, but what a flying start, what an encouraging start, and I like the way the manager takes it in his stride in the way that he does, and he's quite aggressively taking it in his stride. He'll disagree with people in press conferences and post-match analysis. He'll talk very tactically about stuff and really show his intelligence, but he's not being rash. He just looks like he's here to take care of business. So I'll stick my neck out. Rafa won the big cup in his first season. He's nearer to Rafa than he is to Jurgen. Let's have the title.
Neck is stuck out. I think you were also optimistic at the start of the campaign. Yeah. I think people who'd really been on top of the way he was in pre-season, and I think the way they were as well, I don't think it is just him. I think they have had a very, from the minute that pre-season started, had a very business-like, we're serious. Yeah. And I think that they rated themselves off the back of last season, maybe more than a lot of certainly general observers thought that they were worthy of being rated.
100%. I mean, I was optimistic. I remember being on in this very room, being quite giddy with Keogh and Craig, and we were looking at the fixtures and John.
Of course, you were going to Ipswich, weren't you?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, and we were looking at the fixtures, and it was the United game. When I seen the United game, I was thinking, oh, I tell you what, if we win there, we could be on for something big. And I was looking at the wall going, they're all winnable games, even United, the state that United are in. And you know what, it has actually surpassed my optimistic expectations. Yeah. I think City and Arsenal looking vulnerable is the big thing that I'm taking from the start of the season. It doesn't feel like, and I know City can prove you wrong all the time, but it doesn't feel like the City of old. It feels like there's something just not quite right.
Roger.
Yeah, well, of course, yeah. But in terms of us, I think the thing where I was really optimistic, or the thing that sparked my optimism, was Slott's first press conference, or Slott's first interview actually with Peter McDowell. And he says, we finished 3rd last year, we'd like to do better than that this year.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, because it would have been very easy for him to just go, do you know what, great manager, transition, really play down expectations and manage expectations like we've seen, previous managers of ours do in the past.
And also a lot of managers of our rivals when they've just come in afresh.
Of course, yeah, of course. But he faced right into it, and I thought, oh, there's something here. And the other thing which gave me some confidence at the start of the season, and I think we're going to probably see the opposite effect of this now, going into the next part of the season, was the fact that nobody was talking about us as title challengers. It was all City and Arsenal. That was all the mainstream media. It was all what anyone was talking about. And I thought, that suits Liverpool. It suits us as a club to be the underdog. But just to not be spoken about that much, because I imagine we're going to come and talk about what the expectations are now going into the rest of the season. I think that will play a part. I think that might just be something that weighs a bit heavier on us than we think. But yeah, it's exceeding my expectations.
I think they themselves, though, all of them, I think it's led by the captain. I think the captain's got no interest in making up the numbers, even making up the numbers in 3rd. This season, to me, I think they've evoked this real sort of general sense of, no, this is where we are, this is what we're about. And to Damian's second half of the first game point, that's probably not been true of any individual player more than Konate, who from that moment has looked for all the world like a 90-point centre-back. That's what he's looked like, that's the way he's played the game, that's what he's been part of for Liverpool. And all of them know, Phil, I do feel as though they're all deadly serious. I don't feel like any of them are messing about.
Everyone is absolutely dialed into this. I think that's the important thing. You sort of, but then why wouldn't he be? Because like you mentioned Van Dijk at the start of that, he's the captain of Liverpool. He's 34 now.
33, he's 34
now.
next summer.
So he's 34 next summer. He ain't got that many more opportunities, has he?
Yeah.
So he's
Only 8 or 9.
Well, yeah, let's hope so. That'd be all right if it was, wasn't it? Just keep him going until he's about 45, sort of Cristiano Ronaldo style, except not in Saudi Arabia. But he's only got so many opportunities. Salah's only got so many opportunities. They all have only got so many opportunities where they're in a team that they can look at and go, I tell you what, he's good. That video the club put out yesterday of Salah talking about like the quality of his teammates and stuff like that. That's the level of belief that they have in themselves. So I found some of the stuff over the summer like a little bit weird. Like we came third fairly comfortably last year. We were in the mix in everything in late March, early April. And there's people going, oh, just come top 4 and make sure everything's all right, and then we'll go next season. It's like, why? Yeah. If you genuinely thought that, you should have been arguing that Liverpool would have been best off getting rid of Van Dijk and Salah last summer, because you should be building towards a team without them if you're basically writing this season off. So that's, no one was going to do that, and why would you? Because these players are absolutely fantastic, and there's good, like, Van Dijk this season has looked as good as he's ever been, and Konate has looked better than he's ever been. The two of them together. Not surprised Liverpool have only conceded 6 goals in the league, and even when you look at those goals, 2 of them are the Saka one and Hudson-Odoi one, genuine individual bits of brilliance. The one at Wolves was a calamity.
It was a calamity.
There's the Nicholas Jackson one, which is about 3 or 4 inches from being offside, and is probably, if Konate's foot is sort of positioned slightly differently, is offside. There's a Marino set piece at Arsenal, and then there's one more which I've completely forgotten about. These aren't like teams picking Liverpool apart and going, well, this is easy.
It's only one goal in Europe as well.
Yeah, exactly. There's a real defensive stability here that we can look at and go, I'll tell you what, this is on this.
It's only one goal in Europe, Damian, and I think that's also worth pointing out. And also in Europe, you can't say they played mugs. They played the champions of Germany, who only lost, well, now 3 games in about 70. They played another good German side who've done all right in Europe across the last couple of seasons. But we know that they're probably not a pot 1 team, but we've dealt with them. A Milan team that's actually subsequently gone and won in the Bernabeu against Real Madrid. And Bologna, but they're your pot 4 team. But to have gone through that little run and only conceded 1 goal, and scored the ones that they've scored, again another reason to look at them and think, yeah, this is a serious team.
That's why I'm so impressed with the manner in which the manager has come into it, or the head coach. He's just very matter of fact about it, and obviously we're playing with less energy, we're playing with more control. I think he can over-egg that. I certainly would never have 1 syllable, never mind 1 word of criticism for the great Jürgen, for all that he gave to us. Arguably the greatest manager we've ever had. I'm not saying he has, but to even be in the argument is something.
Yeah, 100%.
But the control of it, I think it's contributed to the centre-backs, because they're not as high risk. So they're playing more often, and we're letting less goals in. And what I did notice in pre-season, I'm not a great big watcher of pre-season stuff, but I watched it a little bit more because of the new manager.
Yeah.
It was very clear that on the counter-attack we were still lethal. Absolutely. So if you're going to... It's not just a question of how many goals have we conceded, but your goalie's been man of the match. Our goalie hasn't been getting man of the match. It's been we've been restricting the chances, but we're still deadly.
And the quality of chances
as
well.
No question about it, So it's not like, the opposition's at the crossbar 10 times and you'll be lucky to get away with it. Nothing like that. There's a measure of control that Liverpool have got, and they've got this deadly attacking force and options in it, variable stuff. And I remember Jürgen, when he was on his way up and on his pomp, which was at the same time, there was a lot of occasions where if the opposition had a corner, we were at least likely to score from that corner than they were, if not more. And that's dialing out, and then that really, so think of, that's why I've referenced it, because that was happening a lot, wasn't it? So his principles, and he's looked at the strength of the personnel and the way in which he approaches the game, hasn't just worked at home, but it's worked abroad. There's been no mugs. We've got the acid test coming up, and I just can't wait for that. We'll come to that. But he's looking at the all-round thing of restricting the chances, making chances, and not over-exerting the players. And we're seeing more minutes out of certain players than we would have seen under the previous regime. It's really Liverpool looking very solid, very adult, very professional, workman-like units, and it just looks as though he might go. I might be at the sexiest crowd in Europe. It might be all about all these things and buying the crowd in the way Jürgen had to do and whatever, but he's sort of like, I'm going to win this without them, and then that can go on top.
Yep. Anyway, more in a second on this. We are in the Munro, we are with Erdinger, and you can use this break to work out what the 6th goal is. Let's see if Phil's remembered when you get back.
And Erdinger, please.
Stop! Don't forget the best bit.
Phil.
It was Brighton.
It was Brighton.
Because I didn't go.
Okay.
Of course, you were away, weren't you? Yeah, you were at the wedding.
I've exercised, I've removed it from
For the crowd was good.
Yeah.
I'd accuse you of being a part-timer, but you remembered at least 4 more than I had.
There we are, Phil got it, yeah, Brighton at the back post.
Good finish.
It was a good finish, and this is why I think there's, again, another reason why I am optimistic, and it's not perfect, it hasn't been perfect. That first half wasn't perfect, Forrest wasn't perfect. If he was sitting here now, Slot, I think he would have actually not enjoyed much of this. He just said instead, let me tell you the things that haven't gone right and why they need to improve.
That's one thing he's very quick.
Forrest was horrible, by the way.
It was, yeah. It was genuinely, it was amongst the worst performances at Anfield in 10 years. It's worth being
it was Hodgson-esque.
It was.
I think he needed it though.
Yeah.
Because I think it was like, hang on, okay, that doesn't work. We can get rid of that. We can do this. We can do the other. I've got this template of, I know what doesn't quite work, and I think stuff like that really does help you.
Yeah. Sorry, go on.
No, I was going to say to you, but what the flip side of that though is, for instance, after Forest, they don't lick the wounds, they go to Milan, they go 1-0 down at Milan, and I was thinking when that happens, hang on. But instead they go out, score 3 goals, go from there. But all the way through, they have had to face adversity, and it's worth saying that. The Brighton game's a great example of it. They've come out the other side, with at least with the results and with bits of the performance.
100%. I think that, for me, and before we even spoke about this, that's what I was thinking when you guys were talking. It was around one of the most impressive things that I think from this team is that it's results focused. It's results focused, and yes, we are playing a bit calmer, and it's not the gung-ho stuff, but I think that the title-winning teams win by playing ugly, or win ugly. Winning ugly is the thing that Jürgen didn't quite do. He won very beautifully, didn't he? Do you know what I mean? But I think
nobody learned to win ugly, and that's your point.
Yeah, exactly. And just it is built on the defence as well. So you think about Klopp and Klopp's team and the best teams. You think about the attackers. You think about Salah, Mane, Firmino. But it was always built on defence. When we won the big ones, it was always built on the defence.
Well, 2018-19, they only conceded 22 goals.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is the sort of trajectory we're on right now.
Exactly. And yeah, I agree with you. I think the Milan, like the first part of the Milan game was a bit like, is this the one where it's all going to fall? Is this going to happen? And then it ends up being the complete opposite of that, because we end up going and winning like we did. So honestly, it's super impressive. I think it's definitely a mindset thing. There's definitely, like we were saying it before, but they definitely are dialed in on this, aren't they? They are not interested in top 4. They are interested in winning the league.
Well, we're not interested in top 2.
Exactly, yeah, spot on, yeah.
No, I don't think they are. I think there's a thing with them, Shaun, where you think about how quickly the managers got what gets called buy-in, and we've seen managers again elsewhere where you feel like that's never happened. Good managers hasten to add, this isn't just laughing at Man United. We all know Emery's really good, but he struggled to convince Arsenal, really, that he was about what he was about. It feels to me like almost from day one, when he's had his first conversation with Salah, his first conversation with Van Dijk, his first conversation with McAllister, you get the impression all of these first conversations that he's had have been about, no, I'm here to help you win.
100%, and you see Trent's recent interview that he did, I think it was the one with Harriet actually, but he said within sort of half an hour of being in the room with the manager and speaking to him, his first thought was, we're going to win trophies with this guy. And I think that is definitely the sort of seal of approval that he wants, particularly from Trent, who, out of everyone probably could have been the most apprehensive because he's only ever known Klopp. You see him cry on the pitch when Klopp leaves in this last game, so he's probably coming into this thinking like stepdad vibes, you know what I mean? Like, what's going on here? Yeah. And actually for him to go after half an hour, I was convinced we're going to win trophies with this guy. I think that's definitely promising for us.
It's the one thing though, Trent was mentioned there, it is the one thing that does sort of hang, Damian, the rest of it's come together, the contract situation is, and it's not as simple, doesn't have to be as simple as just whatever it takes to get it done. If people think that that's fine, but it doesn't have to be that way. But it is the one thing that does hang over us going into this now. It's the only real sort of cloud on the horizon, along with the fact that there's going to be difficult games, but we're all in for difficult games when it's all up for grabs. You'd like there to be a bit more clarity on that.
Yeah, I'm disappointed that we are where we are. I never worry too much about the signings that we get in. because historically the best signings Liverpool have made has been to retain their best players, pay good wages, and I think a lot of people think about football transfers and they don't include the wages, which is a mad thing to do. So at the start of the season, was I overly worried about we didn't get anybody in? Yeah, I thought we should have got a player or two in, but I was more worried about the retention of the best players. Now, it's all right saying retaining the best players, but we're exposed to the danger of losing 3 players who would get in any team in the world. Now, I'll just clarify that. In any team in the world, in the first 11, right? They would all get in, right? And we could lose them all for nothing. That would free up a big load of wages. Might be loads of succession planning, but also what it would do is it would be an extreme waste. And I don't blame those players because it's all Liverpool. Any fan can look at FSG, look at what they like to say. Why have they done this? Why have they done this? Those players don't have to sign the contract. It doesn't matter what you put in front of them. And they can be extremely rich young men at a number of clubs at which they play, and it's all about the glory as much of that. And if they want to reserve their judgments and say, after the greatest manager we could have ever wished for, we've got a new manager who don't know much about, I'll reserve me judgments. And if it looks like Liverpool are a top 3 team, I can go play for a team that wins something somewhere else. Now, all Liverpool are doing are all the right things, and if Liverpool continue to do all the right things, and look, and are top of the pops in the Premier League and top of the pops in Europe, what else can they do? In which case, it destroys their arguments about anything else, because Liverpool could make them extremely rich young men. But the longer it goes on, if you think about it, what'll be 11 games in? If we're 11 games to go, and those contracts haven't been signed, there'll be more talk about them contracts than Liverpool potentially winning the league or the big cup, and that will be counterproductive. So I think we need, and not because FSG aren't being professional, not because any of those 3 fine young athletes are being professional, just the way the media is, and it will feed, and the fans will go into it. So yeah, it's hanging over us. I was worried that if they weren't sorted out by this particular international break, I thought anyone who isn't signed by now isn't going to sign. I think 2 of them will. I think 2 of them are bleating their way into having a contract, and the other one's holding his cards closer to his chest. But we just don't know. But this noise will get bigger, and it's not going to be enjoyable, and it could cost us.
So there is another side to this, right? Because I agree with you, and that's the one thing that hangs over us, and we feel like, disappointed. Why can't they just sort it type thing? If you're Michael Edwards and Richard Hughes, like particularly Michael Edwards because he's been there longer, you might know that contract talks and negotiations how you get the best out of the players. And you could argue that, look how well Salah's playing, look how well Van Dijk's playing, they're playing for a contract.
That's a fact.
And I'm going to wait until the 31st of December, and then I'm going to give them what they want then.
But also at the same time, this 31st December, 1st January cut off, I find it quite funny that people are like, they can sign for another club on the 1st January, get it done before, and I'm a bit like, but if they want to sign for someone on the 1st of January, and they do sign for someone on the 1st January, you can pretty much sit here now and say there's nothing the club can do.
Yeah, because
you don't suddenly sit there on the 1st of January and go, well, it's not sorted by now.
Let me check me phone.
What's up, sound? I'll go there then, and that's just not really how it works. I think
they've either already checked out,
exactly.
Or they can be checked
Exactly. That's exactly it. So the 1st of January thing, which needs to be held up as some hard deadline, is a bit confusing, and then how did we get to this? But then I suppose you sort of think of certain things, like there was obviously turnover of people at the club, but also if you go back to the summer of 2023, when I'm in the Champions League, it's a really hard sell to people in the early 30s of come and sign for Liverpool, and you're like, hang on, we finished 5th last season and we weren't very good, and if I commit to this, I might be committed to playing in the Europa League when I'm 34. Is that a great? Is that a good idea? So it's sort of when the whole sort of how's it got to this. There's loads of reasons why it got to this. That doesn't mean it's
odd they only give Trent 4 years. That's the one that more than any other, that's the one that in my head, I don't quite understand why you signed that why it was a 4 year and not a 5.
Unless it came from Trent.
And the
agent then says, that's all right, but we remain in control if it's only 4 years.
Yeah, we want a little bit more control. And I think it's interesting, I'm reading Sy Hughes' book on Salah, and it's interesting how much there's some really good sections on Salah and his relationship with his representative, and how much Salah wants to control his own football destiny and sees this fella as almost like as a consultant more than the idea that he has had a massive influence on Salah's career. The book's really good on this stuff, especially massive influence on Salah's career, but Salah very much it's almost like it's accepted Salah understands this world better than his representative does. and Salah will do what Salah feels is right. And I think Salah's made his point as to what.
To me, that.
Yeah,
It's also made. I think he's also made his point about what he wants. Salah. In the fullness of time, I think it'll be interesting. What are your expectations then from here? You said before you fancied them for it.
I do fancy them for it. I haven't seen any evidence other than the fact that we haven't had the hardest test, but we've had a lot of good tests. I think we've won with something to spare in some of these games. Liverpool are happy to be a goal in front and protect the lead. Jürgen learned that in the season following Kiev, one of the greatest seasons we ever have. He was able to kill a European Cup final after 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And I think Liverpool are very much towards that. This is where, like I mentioned Rafa before, where Rafa would be able to do that. So yeah, if you look at it, Liverpool have beaten the teams that they should do. There's been one anomaly. The draw against Arsenal, it was a brilliant opportunity to beat them there, but by the same virtue, it was their brilliant opportunity to have us. We passed that one. I'd play Man City tomorrow if I could.
Same.
Absolutely. And so, if you think about it being you're in that position, these are hungry players. There's a couple of players who are wondering whether it's going to be their last opportunity to win the league in front of a crowd at Anfield. How many? It's a mentality that comes. I remember seeing an interview with Ronnie Moran, and it was like, at the end of his career, of all the trophies you've ever won, what's the best one? And he said the next one.
Yeah.
And I think there's players in this squad who are acting like that. So there's a lot of things happening right for Liverpool. So if Liverpool get an even break of luck with injuries, I'm not asking for any more or any less than that. The title race will go to the last week of the season and we can do it. And why not? What are we here for as Liverpool fans?
When I just on the side, when I did the book thing in London with Fitzgerald, he interviewed me about the book, and he ended it asking me the same questions that Shoot had asked Kenny Dalglish in 1982. So
I read them.
So I went down it all. Anyway, there's one to Kenny and then to me, who's the person who you most like to meet? So I ummed and ahed like a bell end on stage, and he went, "Do you know what Kenny Dalglish said?" He said, "The person who's presenting the next trophy." Kenny Dalglish's answer.
That is.
Who's the person Kenny Dalglish would most like to meet? The person who's presenting the next trophy. What are your expectations from here?
I mean, expectations are just to continue as we are. Like, I haven't got any sort of. Obviously, I want to win the league, but my superstition won't let me go that far. I can't get that far. I'm almost like I just want to win the next game. Do you know what I mean?
So Southampton away? That's fine, no, genuinely. I think that'll also be what, again, if the manager was here, that's what he'd be saying. Us hitting us with something, a stick.
Exactly, yeah. But I am nervous about the expectation, how that translates to the players. I don't think it will weigh too heavy on them, because I think that, most of them have been around it. And even last season, you could argue they've been around it. Well, definitely have, haven't they? But I am just nervous what the media will do now, because I think the media's going to big Liverpool up massively. You already see it. I've watched some of the overlap this week where they're talking about, and they're having a big massive argument about like Liverpool and everyone's sort of chances and stuff. And I worry that could fester, and we go from being the not talked about team to the Liverpool have fucked it up from here type thing. Do you know what I mean? So I'm hoping
I'm fine with it.
I think the crowd can get in the middle of that. The crowd can go in the middle of that and just go, tell you what, we're going to back here, it's going to be sound, we're not going to get over nervous, we're not going to be over anxious, we're not going to translate that onto the pitch, we're going to be a great gang of supporters, and we've proved it over the last week.
Yeah, that's what I think. That's I back us for that. What do you reckon from here?
I think we're capable of posting a points tally based on what I've seen so far that can win the league. That doesn't necessarily mean
that's where brilliant, well said. Yeah.
Like if you said to me this Liverpool team will get 92 points, I'd go, well, I can see how that happens. I think that was probably going to be enough to win the league, but it might be that one of the other two teams just go on a finish.
Yeah, they win 17 out of 18.
And they get 93 or 94, and you just go, well, listen, that's... Sometimes you can't do anything more, and we've seen that before over the course of the last 5 years with Liverpool, that sometimes you're best, someone just does slightly better, and you basically... It's like that game. It's been like that, the game where it's like on tipping point where the things fall down. Sometimes it goes where you want, sometimes where it doesn't, and unfortunately it's been not that way for Liverpool over the last 5 years, these close ones. It might be that this year it does go like that in the close one, it falls where you want.
There we are. It's Erdinger, it's a pleasure, it's the Monroe, it's brilliant, it's going off downstairs, it's only a bit of a Thursday, we'll get this out for you at lunchtime. It's dark outside as well, so it's getting dark early. Someone said to me in autumn, the colours of autumn, by the way, the colours that are in are maroon.
Okay.
So you look at Kavanagh and you look at Blundell, they're always hit.
Yeah. Your big maroon coat walking down the hill before.
Maroon coat and maroon kecks, because someone said to me yesterday, so maroon coat, maroon kecks. Shaun's got to sort himself out, he's just not hit. He's not getting the pages of Vanity Fair on like Damian Kavanagh. See you later.